Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. Best of all, it's free to do so. Hello there, and welcome back to Porsche Club Insider. This is episode 20. We're at PCA headquarters. This is our second show in our newly minted podcast room here at HQ. I'm here with the Insider crew. I'm Vu Nguyen. I'm PCA's executive director, with Manny Albin, our technical director, and Damon Lowney, our digital media coordinator.
But before we get started, let me ask you something. Do you eat chicken and waffles?
No.
You eat chicken and
I
waffles?
love chicken and waffles.
I've never had chicken and waffles.
You've never had
enough.
chicken and
What?
waffles?
I know. It's weird.
You have
'cause
not
I
lived.
grew up in SoCal.
You have lived
so
a very sheltered life.
The
I've
combination.
always meant to, but just never happened.
Well, then I guess I'm just going to ask you. Have you ever eaten chicken and waffles with chicken that's on the bone?
Yes, I have.
I've never been served.
I have. I mean, I guess that's probably more authentic than deboned chicken on the chicken and waffles. Because it's like basically someone took the idea of while they were eating fried chicken and they had this wonderful waffle that they would combine it. So I don't think they deboned it when they first created it.
But what are you just gonna take your knife, cut your waffle and the chicken at the same time?
Yes.
You hit bone.
Oh, no. I mean, you can strategically cut around the
Wait a
bone.
minute. When do you eat
See,
fried
who wants
chicken?
to do that?
When do you eat fried chicken with a knife and fork?
Well, I mean, but when you combine it with a waffle, you have to do it with
But you're
fork and
just
knife.
saying that the guy who invented this was eating fried chicken.
Welcome
story's
to
not making-
PCA's Porsche podcast with chicken and waffles.
Right, we went to a PCA Region Social, and I'd got chicken and waffles, and it came, and it was a expensive restaurant for what it was. The waffles looked great; they were about 5 inches in diameter,
Mhm.
but it had a piece of bone-in chicken on each piece of waffle.
And
Right.
you have a problem with that?
Yes, I don't think the chef ever seen what chicken and waffle. I think they told him add chicken and waffles.
If
to the
I could
menu.
have him this passionate about everything.
And he and the chef said, "All right," because technically it was chicken and waffles,
Yes.
and they give you this like little shot glass of syrup.
Yeah.
In no way,
Is enough.
no,
No, you got to drench the thing in syrup.
yeah. I mean, you gotta.
Okay, but
The
you got your
waffles like a sponge.
but when you got your piece of chicken cut with your syrup sponge waffle, was it good?
No, because it was very dry.
Okay, well
Oh, no.
that's
I think
totally
the
different.
I think
I don't
the
think
chef was making beef jerky with chicken.
I don't think the bone is really the factor. The quality of the chicken is most
Well, it
important.
shocked me when I saw it. Well, anyways,
There you go, folks. That's what we've been doing since.
It's been bothering me all night.
Tell us how you feel about your chicken and waffle. Should it have a bone in it, or should it be boneless?
Only if you tried it. I don't.
Only if you tried it. Yes.
Don't weigh in if you've never eaten chicken and waffles.
Let's see. What else have we done? Oh, I know. We went autocrossing,
Yeah,
Damon.
I beat you again.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me. Okay, we had a wonderful time. Kudos to the crew, Chesapeake Region Autocross, and it was on a Saturday, and it was scheduled to rain all day. And honestly, I was expecting that it was going to be canceled, but they held it, and it was still an amazing time. Now, with that understanding that it was going to be wet, the Trofeo R's that are on my 996 are not the best in like big standing water puddles, and it was raining hard, so I chose to take Loan's Boxster, base 99 Boxster, with Toyo R1Rs, fairly new, and that's what I chose to bring to battle Damon that day.
Yep, and you did better.
I did.
Look at that.
I ran the first heat, and it was raining most of the time, and it was certainly wet all of the time.
Yeah.
But it did dry out a little bit. No, it didn't
There
dry
were
out.
like 2 or 3 runs where
Yeah.
it wasn't really raining, and you had your top down.
So
all
I could
note.
tell that you were getting nervous because I was running pretty quick
Yeah,
with her car.
Oh yeah.
And I was ahead of some GT3s and some
Yep.
pretty significant cars, and I could see Damon sweating.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to stay for all of his runs, but
Yep.
I saw the run
2
where
runs where I went off.
yes, his first 2 runs he DNF'd, so I was
Yep.
like, okay, he's gonna have to really bring it the last 3 runs, which he did, and and I will admit he did beat me, but he only got me by
Yeah.
3/10. 310s?
Yeah, so there
You're-
are 7 runs we did, or
Did we
was
do
it 6?
six runs?
It was 6 runs. So
You did
1, 2,
not
3,
pull up
4, 5.
this-
No, 7
the-
runs here.
7?
So
Okay.
first 2 I went off, just dumb mistakes. Then I beat you on my 3rd. I'll just note that my first clean run. But it wasn't raining too hard, and then on my 5th run, it started sprinkling a little bit more. That's when I got my fast run, and then the last 2, it was just downpouring, and we had puddles, and I went slower. So
All in all, it was
Yeah.
just a lot of fun, and just
Yeah.
I felt much better because last time we were battling,
Yeah.
we were 4 seconds apart. This
The
time being
basic-
three.
I
I
three
swear
tenths, I'm
I could have made that gap a little more had
Yeah,
I had
sure you could have.
You are
no
And
rain.
if I had another lap, I could have made that gap.
You are
smaller.
now the Haas of autocrossing.
Awesome.
You pray for rain because you hope that the rain takes out the front runners,
Yep.
and you have a chance.
But were you not impressed at Loanne's car? Like I wasn't. Like I was driving her car, and I'm thinking, this is a great
Yeah.
autocross car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, it's very similar to mine, just without the nice suspension. So
Yeah, it's got stock suspension.
roughly the same horsepower, nice tires.
Yeah.
You know, so and
When's
I'm
the
sure
last
it
time
handles-
Loanne drove that car?
She drove it a couple of months ago for tennis. Well, I mean, since she got her new Honda, that's always outside, so she just kind of climbs into that quickly. So, I kind of have to take it out of the garage and like stage it for her to enjoy, just because she doesn't want to have to move all the cars.
Yeah. It's a better autocrosser than your 996.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I was just surprised at how well the car did perform, especially in the rain.
You add more stickers to it, I'm sure it'll improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell it definitely had a lot of body lean to it.
Yep.
But-
I could see that your car was
Like,
definitely
it was-
leaning.
it was-
Oh yeah.
I was pushing it to the limit, but it was a lot of fun.
But
And
in the rain, you want a softer setting.
maybe that's it.
Gives you the advantage because you got a hard setting. It's not conducive in the rain.
So we still have to have a rematch when I
Yeah.
bring the 996 out.
Yep. Yep. When it's dry, hopefully.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, Manny?
Cars and coffee. We did tours with Chesapeake. The 914. I didn't have time, so I took it to Gennady at GT Performance, and I have a leaky caliper. I got to stop by to see if he. He was like, "Oh, I should exchange it for a new caliper." And that car is all original.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
So I'm like, you know what? I think I'll pay whatever the core charge is, so
Yeah.
I can keep this original caliper. But he was going to see if they sell rebuild kits for those calipers.
Yeah.
And his only worry was that the piston was damaged or not. But I almost drained all the brake fluid out of it.
Really?
Yeah, took it out for a drive and everything was fine. I parked it in the driveway and I see fluid coming out and I'm thinking, well, it's not air conditioning because I don't have air conditioning. And it can only be oil transmission fluid. And I felt it. As soon as I felt it, I knew it was brake fluid. I had changed the brake fluid a few months earlier. And at that point, I was too tired to mess around with it. So I parked it and then I took it to him a week ago. And
So he put on a newly rebuilt one, and you saved the core.
I haven't checked with him. He said he was
Okay.
going to, if he couldn't rebuild the one he had, he was going to put a new one because you can still get new ones or rebuilt. I
Yeah.
guess. And he's going to raise the car because I had it really low in the front for autocrossing.
Oh, I like the stance on your car. You're gonna raise it up to make it more stock
Make it
looking?
level.
Make it level,
Yeah,
because
not
it
the-
had like an aggressive, like lowered.
Yeah, I
Front
think it
end.
was too aggressive. And since I don't really autocross that car anymore, I didn't need it to be that, have no suspension travel in the front almost.
But it looks so good. Speaking of which, I just about wrapped up the restoration is not the right word, but setting up my son's new to him Honda Fit. And the reason I think of it is because I lowered it. It needed an alignment, and I kind of went down the slippery slope of, if I'm going to get it aligned, it's got 110,000 miles on the suspension. I might as well get shocks. And if I'm going to get shocks, I got to take out the springs. So if I'm going to do that, I might as well get new springs. And if I'm going to get new springs, I might as well get lowering springs. So I did. I did
rabbit
lowering
hole.
springs. Manny's looking at me going, oh, poor Loanne. But that car got all the suspension done. But the last bit of it was the roof on Hondas tend to fade a lot, especially a black car that has been left outside, and my brother didn't really take great care of it. And repainting it is a pretty expensive option, so I took it to Mod Automotive down in Clinton, Maryland, and they wrapped the roof. They wrapped the roof in black 3M vinyl, and I'm actually going to go back and wrap the front in black PPF. So now,
Whose car is this?
This is the same. It always is like this. Someone else's car in the family.
hey, if it's on the driveway at my house, it's got to look appropriate. It's got to be VU approved. So it is just about done. And Jason's been practicing driving. We've gone on hills and everything. So
Have you gotten rid of the Corolla?
no, but we will be getting rid of the Corolla.
So how many cars are sitting at your house right now? Not including the garage. I won't even count. In the driveway and the street, how many cars?
6.
And how many people live in the house?
Your driveway is just as full as mine.
I have 4 cars in my driveway.
Okay, I only have 2 more.
Man, that makes me look good. I think 6 cars total at my house. I only own 3.
I can't help it. I have a problem. I admit I can't let things go. But anyways, so that's done. And
Are you going to sell the Corolla, or have you gotten some emotional attachment to it?
no, I think it's one of those. I mean, it's got like 300 and some unknown miles because '06 Corollas are stopped counting after 299,999. Like they stopped counting. It's just a software flaw. So, anyways, but like I don't know if I really want to sell it. It's a great car. Everything works on it. So there's somebody that might need it. We got it for super cheap, so we might just donate it to a family friend or someone that's in need. That's the only way I can get rid of
I
it.
bet you 6 months from now, he still has it.
Hey, maybe.
Who am I? Let's see. We got to do some fun 1 mile reviews recently, and I got to drive a bucket list car for me. And thank you to Mr. Bill Tate. He brought over his gorgeous 1958 Speedster, local car that I've known for quite some time, ivory over red. And I'm looking at the Unstock poster here, but that car isn't a typical Unstock, but it is an Unstock car in the fact that he's modified it so that he can enjoy it, and it's a hot ride. I think it's got a 18-something cc motor, so it scoots, and it's got bigger sway bars. It's got a camber kit on it. Man, what an amazing car.
I should have asked him, how many people come up to him and ask him if the car, if it's real?
I bet you all the time, because cars like that car's probably worth $300,000 or so, and you don't expect to see a $300,000 Speedster being driven the way he drives that car. He drives that car to parade. He drives it across the country. He has no problem getting into it and just going the distance. And it's a beautiful car. It's a fun car to drive. And I had never I'd driven a 356 before, but I had never driven a Speedster.
That was the last year of the Speedster, 58. There were some 59 Carrera Speedsters, but 58 was really the last year of the Speedster. Well known, and it was probably the most refined versus like a Bob 54, which is almost archaic compared to
I gotta tell you, it was intimidating to climb in, and I've driven my 914, and I know that shifting is not exactly exact on some of these older vintage Porsches. With his, I kind of thought it would be the same way. And when I put it into first, I'm like, am I already in gear? And he's like, it needs to I forgot the phrase that he mentioned, but he says it's got to pop in. And I'm like, well, why don't you do it first so I can kind of hear what that pop is like? And sure enough, it's like where I went to was right before the pop, and he just gave it a little bit more nudge. It's like click, and it goes in. And then once you know that, driving the car was no problem at all. First had a little click in, second had a little click in, and certainly you're not rowing the gears fast. You got to let kind of things catch up. Third gear had a little click into it, but after third gear, everything was smooth. Plenty of power to keep up with modern day traffic. But boy, do you feel like you're driving crazy fast. I mean, you're doing 35, 40 in these back roads, and you got this big wood rim steering wheel and flinging it around. It was so much fun. So much fun. Actually, talk about fun. You want to talk about?
But can you imagine daily driving that when that was new?
He did.
That's what I mean. You got no windows. You just got plastic windows.
Yeah.
That slide into the doors. So you can't roll them down. You're going to unzip them and I think fold them down. No, obviously no air conditioning. Very loud. The top is very thin. It was the cheap car. It was the entry level car. It just amazes me that people were daily driving that.
Well, you saw that. We'll go back, hopefully, to that picture where I'm sitting in it. I can only imagine with that top up how tiny of a cockpit that is, and it would be. And with the windows, I think the window opening is not like a full window. It's got mostly like a solid vinyl, and then just like a little piece of clear, so you could look out the side. So daily driving something like that would definitely be for a hardcore enthusiast, which Bill is. And I think he drove it for like a decade to I think it's NSA or somewhere that he drove across 32 and where he worked. But what I thought was really interesting about this car, it's a 58, right?
Mhm.
And he bought it 8 years later as a rust bucket. Can you believe it only took 8 years to take a car from new to rust bucket status? Like, that's unheard of these days. Cars, even the cheapest cars today, last longer than that. But yeah.
They had a lot of options too.
Yeah.
It was shown as the book. It was once again, these were the entry level. They were trying to compete with the English cars, so it was very bare bones. Even the armrest, which is something I didn't know, was a rare option. This one has the coupe seats.
Mm-hmm.
So the speedster seats were buckets. They were really basic. I mean, David would have loved them because the original speedster seats are very supportive.
Yeah.
But these are much more comfortable. But they weren't that popular because they would cost a lot more.
So you were telling me, I believe, that this car was like a stripped down model that was built primarily for the U.S. market.
Yeah, it was because once again, Max Hoffman was telling Doc Porsche that they had to compete with the English cars and get the price down. The English cars, of course, compared to a speedster, were almost dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But people were looking at the price and saying, kind of like saying, I can buy a Miata. Why would I want to buy a Boxster?
Yeah.
When I can get close to the same performance.
So I remember you talk about Max Hoffman. I think it's like that poster that you see where it's the photo of a speedster, and for $2,999 or something like that, you can get a brand new speedster. Like, I know that's a lot of money, or was a lot of money back then, but it's just so interesting to think that amount of money could have gotten you a speedster. Who would have known? Like, he did. He bought that car not thinking that one day it was going to be, a six-figure car. He just got it because he thought it was cool and it was a fun car to drive. And another factoid is that that is more similar to a car that James Dean raced, as opposed to the car that James Dean is probably most known or be aligned with.
He never got to race.
He never got to drive the 550 Spider, right? But he was racing a speedster. I think it was a white one as well, all over the place.
Yeah.
So, anyways, speaking of cars that were stripped down and made kind of unique for a better marketing ploy, I guess, or make it more attractive, we got to drive another very special car, a 1993 968 Club Sport, and boy, this car, especially in speed yellow, gorgeous car.
Yeah, it was a car that was never available in the U.S. So, of course, whatever we can't get, is what we want. And but this was not an RS. It's a whole different animal. It's basically like if you wanted something a little bit more sportier than the regular 968, you could get this in Europe. And this one had a lot of options that increased the weight. And the car was, I think, 200 pounds less than a regular 968. But once you added things like air conditioning, it came with I think you had the sport buckets, which were later weight, no rear seating. One of the things we thought was cool that Damon made a short of was how to open up the rear hatch, which we didn't know. I was just trying to follow. I knew the wiring would go up to the front because that's where Damon had mentioned that on his 944 it was release was in the front. So
next to the hood latch.
Yeah, so I was trying to see where the wiring would go, and then I saw the little pull for the latch, and
we went back to look for a keyhole to open up the hatch, but there's no keyhole either. Probably because that mechanism's too heavy. Probably, right?
Yeah, they were trying to save weight as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, having said that, though, I mean, I kind of went into experiencing this car thinking that it was going to be a really stripped down car. Like, I was thinking roll up windows, which this has power windows. I was thinking no AC, this car has AC. I was thinking no radio, this car has radio. So other than the fixed seats and the removal of the rear seats and maybe some of the cable pulls, like how different is this from a normal 968? Is the engine any different?
No, it's the same engine, and there was two like desirable options you wanted to look for. The MO30 option.
Suspension.
Yeah, and I think it was the 220 option, which was the limited slip. I think that's a number for it. Not all of them came with.
Yeah.
So, you could make this car as comfortable as you want it, depending on your options. This one had air conditioning. Originally, it didn't come with air conditioning. So if it didn't come, when it came the way it came originally without air conditioning, it meant you only needed one fan. So they took out the other fan because extra weight. But if you get air conditioning, you got to go back to 2 fans, so that adds more weight. So I think it was 2910 was pounds was the original weight, but you start adding up.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the RS America of 968.
Exactly, Damon. It's exactly what I was thinking, that everyone loved the idea of an RS America stripped, but the reality was...
if I'm going to live with it.
I really want air conditioning, and radio would be nice.
Yeah.
And so the chance of finding an RS America was just a limited slip.
So I got to drive a few miles because I did the pickup of the car, and it's a very smooth drivetrain, very sweet engine. It's quick. It's not fast. It handles really well, especially a car of its age. It was a very solid car. But those of you that know me, I've said this before. Like for some reason, I think it's my proportions of torso and short legs or something like that. But I cannot sit comfortably inside a 944 or 968. Like when I sit, in order for me to get like the clutch down all the way down and like have that area comfortable, like I'm like eating the steering wheel and my forehead is touching the visor. So I don't know.
Yeah, I never had that problem.
I don't know how to fix that. And I wish I could fit better in the car because I know I would enjoy it more. And so that's why for the 1 mile review, I thought it'd be much better for one of you guys to do it because I would just look completely awkward inside that car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun car. It was pretty cool to drive a club sport.
So we had some other 1 mile reviews, didn't we? Recently released. You did that 2000 996 Carrera.
Yep. So really well optioned. Manny drove a really well optioned 911 Carrera Cabriolet, a 2000 model, so a 996, and it had I think 30 pages of options, which included a pretty wild leather interior.
You know what?
You're right. Look at that.
Yeah, it's black in the middle.
I don't know if you can pause right there or go back. So we were just talking about how on the sun visors, a lot of 996 sun visors and Boxster sun visors, the flap that goes over top the mirror, they break because the pins are so fragile.
The black part of
that sun
people
visor.
watching the YouTube version of our podcast are going to see that flap. And
so there you go. See,
Vu found
Is it that there or right in the center?
Yeah, the center one
there.
part.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't think. I thought it was body colored on this car.
Yeah. So there's some kits out there that you can buy from Porsche or Porsche Classic, like the complete visor, or you can buy like the mirror and the lid combo from Porsche. But there's some other folks that are just making the lid. It doesn't match perfectly, but it's pretty good, and they've kind of reinforced the pivot points. So I bought that to try out, and maybe we'll do a video in the future, see how well that works out.
Yeah, but this 996 Cabriolet, Rick's car, he was the original owner, and boy, if you're looking for a 9, not that he's selling it, but this is the kind of car you want to like find.
So did he go in and check all those options? Like that was
a lot of them,
which before the internet was like a huge thing like it is now. And with if you guys have been to Porsche.com, you'll probably have noticed the configurator to build your own Porsche. This flashy thing, the car spins around as you check options. It wasn't like that back then.
No.
Yeah.
You had to go through a book, right, and check off.
It was tech equipment, not exclusive.
It was tech equipment, okay.
Right.
So it was very well optioned, and most of all, the car has been taken care of. Like Rick always takes care of his cars, and I thought to myself, this is the way I bought my 914. The previous owners had really taken care of the car. If I was in the market for a 996 Cabriolet, this is the kind of car I'd want to buy. No stories, just...
It's a beautiful car, beautiful example. And then I think that's probably like the ultimate touring 996. And that's the type of car you want to buy from someone that has maintained it, and it's like a perfect specimen. So we also talked about this last time, the 1 mile review of the Ruby Stone RS. You dropped that video.
Yep,
recently.
that's now out. Go check it out. It's pretty easy to see. It's the what basically looks like a pink 964 on the thumbnail.
Oh my
So
God,
I think you just offended a ton of people by just calling it pink.
It's basically pink,
It's Ruby Stone.
dark pink.
We had a viewer has offered to bring his
Yeah.
Carrera Cup, USA Carrera Cup
Yeah.
car to have us drive it. And another viewer, he said, if you're in Florida, I think he's in Florida, he offered, to let us drive his. But his, asked him to send me a picture of it because he was describing it on the YouTube comments. And he sent me a picture of it. And I'll ask him for the next podcast we can show it. But it has like 959 style touring seats. So it's not the
Whoa.
ones like in this Ruby Stone that are the one-piece racing seats.
Yeah.
These are more the comfort. But remember the 959 had like a tricolor.
Right.
Gray.
Mhm.
That's what this has on this, and it has like regular door panels. I think he said air conditioning. It was a kind of like the Club Sport. It
Yeah.
checked off certain boxes to make it more comfortable, but it was still an RS. Very,
I think
very
that's
interesting.
I think that's what we're trying to achieve with 1 mile review is, we're just taking quick drives in these cars to share with people what it's like, and it's not looking at the model overall. We're looking at the specific example that we're driving. And as we travel across the country, and Damon and Manny and myself with camera gear and microphones and stuff like that, if you're interested in letting us drive your car and you've got something special, we would love to do it. Obviously we can't do everybody's car, but yeah, it's just a way for us to do something fun and give you some special content. And speaking of special content, I've said it before that we're dropping so much content on our YouTube. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and each and every one of you that are listening and watching, you guys can make a difference. It would mean a whole heck of a lot to us to make sure that you subscribe. So,
And what that means is the $100,000 members or viewers or subscribers. That means that our videos will get shown to a wider audience.
correct.
When the people are searching. So we'll be up the top, not the bottom. And because a lot of people say, "Oh, your content's great. You should have a lot more views." And we agree.
Yeah.
We have a lot of views. We have a lot of watch time.
Yeah.
That's all looking really good. But whoever is watching our videos is not subscribing.
Yeah,
So please subscribe.
subscribe and also share if you love it that much. Repost it. Again, the whole idea of us doing this is to try to make Porsche Club of America a household name for every enthusiast, for those that own Porsches as well as for those that don't own Porsches but hope to someday own a Porsche. We want them to, just like when I bought my 911 back in 2003, like I bought the car and immediately knew I was going to be part of the club. So that's what we want to try to ingrain, and by getting our content out there, having subscribers, that's going to help the overall cause, right? So
I was talking to some fairly new members at the social, and I said, "So, how did you find out about PCA?" And he says, "I've known about it all my life." I said, "Oh, so your mom and dad or somebody was in the club?" They go, "No." I said, "So how did you hear about it then?" And he says, "I've always been into cars and in magazines and everything I've read. PC is always mentioned when it comes to Porsches." So, well,
perfect.
I guess we're finally getting
That's
it through.
perfect. Perfect. So speaking of new content, we're going to be creating some new content with a vehicle that's parked right outside the office here, and with its, I think, Arctic Gray and Neodyme wheels. This thing is a beast. It's like, what is it? The quickest SUV on the Nürburgring.
Yeah. It's a 631 horsepower Cayenne Turbo GT.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
All right, I will confess here. When these Cayenne coupes or even SUV coupes started coming out, what, about 5 years now? We started seeing these. We don't count the Nissan Murano, although that might be known as the first SUV coupe. Like I didn't really understand, because I'm the type of person that, like, if you buy an SUV, you want like a very utility SUV, and if you buy a sports car, you want sports cars. So my initial thinking of, okay, they've combined this. Do you really need to combine it? Like,
No, probably not.
probably not. So again, I'm confessing that I didn't get why a coupe version of an SUV.
But remember, the
exists.
crossovers have become very popular.
Absolutely, I know.
So Manny and I haven't driven it yet, but I'm sure we will. And
let me just summarize it. I get it. It is, and at the risk of sounding like a fanboy, this thing's a beast. It is a beast, and I can see why you can have, everything all wrapped into one. It is an amazing drop, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to.
Yeah, podcast.
Next podcast we'll talk about the specifics.
Speaking of which, I don't know. Did you mention that starting?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't.
Weekly now.
I'll let you do the honors.
That's it. We're going
to go weekly. I mean, that'll be our goal. Of course, as we get into some of the event seasons, and it might mess up our schedule, but we are going to make an effort to drop a podcast every week.
Weekly most of the time.
Yes. And if that's good for you, make sure you're subscribing on your podcast platform. Make sure you're commenting, because again, that just lets us know that
if you want to comment, your best bet's probably go to
YouTube or Apple Podcasts. Let you do.
Well, they let you leave reviews.
Oh, right.
But you can't comment on each
right.
podcast. So if you go to the YouTube version and comment, we read every comment or any email you send to us.
We absolutely do. I log on every day and look at the comments, and when there's questions, I try to answer them. Yeah. Actually, our last podcast, where it was the first one here, we had experienced, at no fault of the microphones, because the Telefunken microphones are amazing, but we kind of had it set up improperly, so you heard a little bit of popping sounds from my big mouth, and maybe positioning wasn't correct. So hopefully this time around we've made a couple of changes. So we're still learning, but someone had mentioned that on YouTube, and we addressed it. So, all right. This was something interesting. Came in from a friend of mine. We probably shouldn't say his name, but GT. Is it GT2 or GT3 owners that are choosing
GT2 or GT3?
GT2 or GT3. Yeah, you're right. Again, we probably shouldn't mention the name of whatever kit this is, but people are taking the rear wing off of their cars because they drive it primarily on the street and they like the look of a touring.
They do look awesome, don't they? Like that.
They do look good. However, I'll let Manny talk to what it means when you're pulling off the purpose-built wing on the back of your GT3 or GT2.
So it's called a wing delete kit, not made by Porsche. It's an aftermarket. And it's not like badge delete where you simply take out the badge of the rear and then no big deal. Porsche had the touring models, which didn't have any wing, but they compensated with the downforce with the underbody. And the diffusers and whatnot. And
I think they even added the Cabriolet's wing that I think raises at a steeper angle. And they did things in the front to balance it off. Yeah,
they have a thing called a wind tunnel.
Yeah,
and they test. They don't just say, "Hey, that looks cool. Let me put that on there." And as a Porsche evidently got wind of this and was very concerned because after I saw the email from Porsche. I thought, I said the liability, of course, is going to come back to them because people are going to sue whoever has the most money.
Yeah,
and there could be serious accidents with these cars because they're very fast, obviously, and not having that downforce in the rear, or thinking that you have a replacement downforce because you've got this delete kit that make.
Well, here's the thing: most people don't know, but I believe factory cars are designed to have a certain amount of understeer, because when you understeer, it's quite a bit. You slow down, and it corrects. You kind of get back in control. But when you lose the traction or the downforce at the back, it's going to create an oversteer situation, meaning it's going to have the back try to come around you, and when that snaps, especially at speed, that is very hard. Not many people are trained or have driven enough to be able to correct that. So I can only imagine if you have something like a GT3 or GT2. Yeah, if you're driving 40 miles an hour, probably isn't an issue. 60 mile an hour, maybe not an issue. But I'm thinking if you get like 70, 80 miles an hour, that is going to make a difference. And if you bury your nose into an on-ramp at speed and you don't have that traction in the back, it's going to come around on you. And that's obviously something very scary. I know that Robert just showed a number of different types of wings. This one happens to be factory, but a few photos before that, he showed various wings.
Yeah,
that's
the
something
wind
to
tunnel.
consider when you're changing or adding a wing or taking away a wing from your car. You have to think about the aerodynamics. The engineers at Visox certainly did, and they know exactly the amount of pressure that it's exerting on the car. Some of these wings that are out there, they look beautiful. Maybe some are tested. I'm not saying aftermarket ones aren't tested, but just make sure. Make sure if you're doing stuff to your car, that's going to affect the balance, the downforce balance. Make sure it's affecting it in a positive fashion, or at least in an equal fashion, where if you're adding down pressure in the back, you better put something up front. Or if you're taking something off in the back, make sure you're taking something off in the front so you maintain that balance, because you don't want to make your car handle worse, right?
Yeah,
Maybe look to the club racing community a little bit for inspiration when it comes to that sort of stuff.
They definitely know aero.
Yeah.
Well, we hope. Because,
Yeah, exactly.
Once again, it's having a wind tunnel really makes a difference, and understanding aerodynamics, not not staying at a Holiday Inn and believing that you're an aerodynamicist and you can you know how to set the car up to compensate for what Porsche did. But it was interesting to me that Porsche sent this email out to owners of these cars telling them do not remove your wing that's there as a safety measure. That was I think the company that was making these kits, that definitely a come to Jesus email. Because once again, if you put this delete kit, first thing I thought was I put this delete kit on my car and I sell it to Damon. Damon is not a
He doesn't know this.
He thinks the car comes like this.
Yeah.
Damon says, I'm going to sign up for the track.
Ooh.
He goes out to the track, not realizing that he should have a wing, and loses it because he's going so fast and he doesn't have that downforce in the rear. And if there's something fatal.
Yeah.
This leads me to why I prefer a GT3 over a Touring. Is because he got that downforce. That's what the car was originally built.
Yeah, but the Touring was designed knowing that it didn't have a wing, and they changed the aero for that. So it's balanced. The Touring is built knowing that it doesn't have a wing.
Well,
so,
the new GT3 RS comes out with that wing that we all see in spy shots.
Yeah, the huge
active wing. Yeah. God, I hope no one builds or tries to make a delete kit for that.
Right.
Because that's an integral part to the performance of that car.
Maybe it's just me, but I like big wings. I mean, if you look at a lot of the cars that are on my driveway, they've got wings. I like wings.
It has a function, and then you go to the track, or you go to an autocross. Not that an autocross it would matter that much, right?
No, I don't know, man. You see those SCCA folks.
Yeah, some of them. Big wings.
Big wings.
Yeah.
You got to be going a certain speed. Yeah. You got to have the wing closer to the roof line.
Yeah.
I club raced for a long time, and midway through my club racing career, I switched to a wing, factory RS wing on my 964. I didn't notice 1 ounce of
really?
Yeah. And I talked to someone who had
he wasn't driving fast enough.
Yeah, that's what I asked him a factory race car. I'm like, do you notice a difference? And he said, no. He goes, but if you put uprights and you get your wing higher, he goes, then you'll notice the difference. And I couldn't do that in my class. It's the same thing with the front. I bought this chunky non-factory splitter, but boy, from the looks of it, it looked like I was going to have 1,000 pounds of downforce in the front.
Nothing.
Not only did it do anything, I lost it at Sebring. It came off. And the next lap, showing how consistent I used to be running my line, I ran over it.
You ran over your own?
My own splitter. And I remember coming on the radio saying, somebody's losing body parts out here. And it turned out to be a friend of mine, like 6 months later, he had gotten the same spoiler because it looks really aggressive. And he was at VIR, and he lost his spoiler. And I said, I said, look, let's look at our lap times. I said, because at Sebring, I said, my lap times actually improved when I took the big front splitter off. And he looked at his, he got better too.
Yeah.
After he lost a splitter. So he saw the wing in the back, but he didn't have. So anyway, that's why the factory wasn't racing these big splitters on their race car. It didn't look great like the aftermarket, but they knew something that we didn't.
Let's get into some news here. You chose a couple of links here. It was National Ice Cream Day recently, and Porsche decided to participate in that. Chicago, right?
Yeah. They obviously the colors and the.
It's pretty cool that Porsche.
I would have loved it if as a collector, I'm not sure what I would do with ice cream bars because you couldn't really display them. You'd have to show them in the freezer all the time. But I thought that was very cool marketing.
Yeah, they definitely do
did.
cool stuff all the time. Speaking of other cool things, they did a GT3 special edition tribute in what I call 50 Shades of Grey.
But that was another I think Sunderwunsch deal, and I would love a car like this.
That's crazy.
Celebrating the Super Cup, but a street version of the Super Cup. That is
that's a
cool,
good looking car
project.
That would be tough to drive on the street. You would
Not
attract
at
so
all.
much attention.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not
I
at
guess
all.
it's just not for me.
I think it includes your favorite, Agate Gray.
Yep, agate, Italian pronunciation.
For those of you that haven't heard from our
what did we learn about patina or patina?
Patina.
So the British. So we were listening. What was it? James May, Richard
Yes.
Hammond. Patina.
Patina?
That's where I got it.
Patina? But is that correct?
It's
That's how they
correct for the
pronounce it.
British,
Oh,
I guess.
But they don't pronounce Agate Gray.
No, they don't.
say
That was wrong.
Agate Gray.
So-
So that was in a previous podcast we were making fun
So
of.
the
Damon.
one I really liked was the one about the story of the PDK.
Mm.
I don't know if you read that or not, but
No.
so
Yeah, the 944.
how PDK came to be, and evidently they were developing it in the '60s.
Wow, that early on.
Yeah, and so
Porsche was?
Yeah, the original engineer, approached Ferdinand Piech. He gave him the go ahead, and he developed a prototype, and it kind of like just sat on the shelf after that. They didn't go any further. Fast forward, another engineer digs up the prototype
What?
and sticks it in a 944 turbo
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, what if? Let's take a look to see, how legit this was."
Uh-huh.
And it works. They really like it. So then they stick it in the 956, which is what I'm familiar with. I never knew that they did it in a 944.
Huh.
But the pictures from the 944. By the time they went to the 956, that's when they realized, hey, why don't we put the shifters on the steering wheel, the paddles?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously every minivans have paddles, I think now, but back then that was a pretty high end thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, if I lived around Zuffenhausen where the factory is, I'd have to look into every Porsche parked on the street because it looks like a regular 944
Right,
turbo,
right.
but you peer inside and you can see that the stick shift's different than it had the PDK.
And it was basically
transmission.
computers weren't advanced enough to
But from a
handle
prototype from the 60s, they
Yeah.
were able to start developing. So they
when
don't throw, much like you, Vu, they don't throw anything away.
See? So here's a fast forward to yesterday driving the Turbo GT does not have a PDK in it.
No,
It's
and
a
I think we
Cayenne.
asked Michael Tam of this at the LA Auto Show, and he said it would require a lot of tolling and changes to be able to put the PDK in it.
Hmm.
So,
So is that the case, or is it because of the weight? And I know that, like, is a standard transmission more robust than a PDK? Like, say for towing and stuff like that. Like,
well,
would
you got
not-
the torque converter,
Yeah.
and a standard transmission, which you don't have in PDK. So
that handles more torque.
yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, well, it handles the torque for towing, but obviously PDK is in the fastest cars Porsche makes.
Yeah.
But according to Michael Tam, it was really an issue of
Fitting it in.
tolling.
Oh, tooling.
I mean, one of the other videos that came out with that Laura Bernstein did with the interview with Boris.
Oh yeah, great job on that,
Yeah.
Damon. By the way,
If you hear,
Laura,
he wasn't even there.
he coordinated it. It was under the direction. It was under the direction of Damon Lowney. So therefore,
I have to say that Laura had just as much, if not more, to coordinate that. She
Well
did a
done,
great
Laura.
job. So
So,
yeah,
anyways, I was watching it and hearing Boris, and I heard this at the parade, some seminar. So I'm glad we were able to capture it on this video too, about how they developed the fender without the intake.
Mhm.
Turbos always have the intakes,
Right.
And they had to basically pay for tooling,
Right.
do their own
Like
tooling.
a big stamp, right?
Yeah, to get this fender to be able to fit in. So
Yeah.
it was
and you wonder why they're only making 1,250 Sport Classics, it's not because necessarily it has to be limited, which it does, but because the tooling, which is the size of a small apartment, only has enough.
It can only stamp that many out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And I'm sure they probably built in, if somebody needs a replacement fender, maybe they can stamp out a few more.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do you know some people are going to come up and say, well, I want my turbo without the intakes also.
Oh, sure.
But it's such a clean look to it.
Yeah, well, but their turbos,
needs that hole.
Yeah. They reduced the power on the Sport Classic for the transmission mostly because I believe the intake air doesn't go through the sides anymore. It goes through the deck lid grill. The intakes on the sides are for something else, which I'm forgetting. But
yeah, if you haven't checked out that video that dropped recently, it's what did we call it? Sport Classic review with Porsche.
We've been doing so many videos lately.
I can't remember all the titles.
Yeah, manual 2023 Porsche 911 Sport Classic exclusive walk around with the head of Porsche exclusive. Hey, we're trying to fit all the keywords here. So
as I said, we're doing all that we can to get maximum subscribers. So let's talk about this next topic, which I will again admit to not knowing exactly the details.
I want to watch Jim pace back and forth
Jim,
in the hallway.
Keep
like
Jim
he
out
has
there
been for the 10 minutes. It reminds me of. I feel like a doctor at a doctor's appointment. I'm going to make this guy wait a little longer.
We brought Jim in before. We were talking about racing and such, which he's the one that's most engaged in the office with pro racing. But today we're bringing him in to talk about the Porsche IPO and what does it mean to enthusiasts.
Jim's going to be insanely rich by the end.
Jim likes to say he is a owner of Porsche.
Yeah, I'm not only a member.
He's an owner. He's an owner, and share with our listeners how many shares of Porsche do you have?
It's going to be the next Musk, right?
A whopping 62 at this
Oh,
point.
you increased to 62.
I'm up to 62.
When you first told me about it, you said you literally bought one.
Yeah. It's actually paying off.
It's paying off? Yeah. Okay. All right, so share with the listeners, like, what are the key things to know about this IPO and what's it like to be an owner?
And so this article is on our website.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
It's an article Jim wrote last week, I think, was it?
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat what's in the article so people can actually read that. But sitting next to Manny, I like to tease Manny that he may have all this experience and background with PCA, but he's sitting to an actual owner of Porsche. So I like to tease Manny about that. But yes, my 62 shares really doesn't add up to much. I get no voting rights. I don't get any say in the company. I just got a little email that says I have shares in Porsche SE.
Nice.
So it doesn't add up to much, but I think it's very significant, and I would argue this point with anybody that I think this upcoming IPO could potentially be the biggest thing for Porsche at this moment. People like to talk about, well, maybe Formula One or the LMDH program or all the electric cars coming out, but the management of the company, I think, is far more significant than anything else going on. So if you haven't heard all this, so there's a possibility that Volkswagen is going to list Porsche as a company on the stock market, which basically means they're going to spin off Porsche as its own company. And that's pretty significant because right now everything's got to go through Volkswagen.
But let me stop you right there. But you already have shares. So
Yeah,
how is it that you have shares when it hasn't been offered yet?
Yeah, so this is where it's kind of confusing, and I can explain this hopefully in a nutshell. But before I get to that, why I think it's so significant is if just look at the recent Formula One discussions. Porsche has to go to the Volkswagen board and say, hey, can we enter Formula One? And Volkswagen says, I don't know if we want to spend the money on that. And then they have to convince that board. So first Porsche has to convince its own board, hey, we should do Formula One. And then they got to take that up the ladder to VW and convince them. In a post-IPO world, if Porsche could spin off, they could do whatever they want. They could just go to their own board and say, let's do Formula One.
So one less layer of approval.
One less layer.
To make things more confusing, remember the Porsche family has high stakes in Volkswagen too.
Yeah. So to Manny's point, here's where it gets confusing. I actually have shares of what I mentioned a minute ago of Porsche SE. So Porsche SE is a holding company that doesn't run a business. It's a holding company that just hold shares in primarily Volkswagen. So the family, the Porsche and Pick family, have this holding company, Porsche SE, and that is listed on the stock exchange. So I have shares of Porsche SE. Porsche SE is the majority owner of Volkswagen. Volkswagen's the majority owner of Porsche.
I see. Okay.
So indirectly. But why this is significant to this conversation is what Porsche is hoping is that Volkswagen will list them this fall, an IPO. So that IPO is an initial public offering. So right now you can't buy Porsche stock. Porsche is, it's not listed. Porsche SE is listed, but Porsche is not because Porsche is owned by Volkswagen. You can buy Volkswagen stock, but you can't buy Porsche stock. So what they're hoping is that they'll spin this off. But the reason I think this is significant, and the reason why I love talking about it, is I think it's very important for Porsche fans, for Porsche enthusiasts, to have Porsche pulled back away from Volkswagen gives Porsche a lot of business freedom. And all the profits that Porsche makes will go back to Porsche and Porsche development rather than to Volkswagen, and Volkswagen dole it out. So Porsche is the most profitable as a percentage of car sales segment in all of Volkswagen. So Porsche makes all this money, gives it to Volkswagen, and then Volkswagen decides where that profitability goes.
So Manny has a steel trap of a mind. Wasn't it like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago when there was talks of like the separation and Porsche was trying to buy Volkswagen or something like that?
When Louis King had tried to initiate a buyout of Volkswagen.
Okay, so that Porsche would have been the overall.
That was in 2008.
But it turned out that Volkswagen became the
Unfortunately,
overall.
the world's economy collapsed.
Yeah.
Which they weren't planning on that. And if you remember, the parade after that was very solemn because Porsche had ceased to be a family-owned company in the sense we all know and love them. And it was very. I just remember hearing, things are going to change. Volkswagen's coming, and I knew that it was like, but Volkswagen's owned by Porsche, so it's kind of bizarre but the whole mentality. And actually, I think it turned out for the better. I really do. And talking to people from Porsche, because the whole culture, I think, was a little bit was better for the workers from Volkswagen's point of view. I remember hearing that they didn't want people working over 40 hours.
Yeah, so don't answer your emails or turn it off.
That people are coming out and they were basically signing out and then walking back up to their offices because they were going to get in trouble if they were working over 40 hours. That Volkswagen wanted them to have a life. They even installed like a
work-life balance,
a daycare.
Yeah,
because they said you could have a family at the time if you worked for Porsche. So I think that whole culture change really obviously helped Porsche because you look at their results now and they're doing phenomenal.
Yeah, and everything I'm reading is this could be definitely a win-win situation. So Porsche will spin off, become its own company, be listed on the stock exchange independently. They'll have business independent, but they're still going to have that cooperation with the Volkswagen Group in terms of production. So they'll still have that economies of scale that's what Manny's point, that's what Volkswagen brought to the table. So they're still going to have that business relationship, but Porsche will be able to manage itself, which I think would be pretty
Seems very similar to Fiat letting go of Ferrari.
Very
what was
similar.
it, 10 years ago or so, maybe less.
Yeah, and the last I was reading this morning is, it's still a bit up in the air. There's no final commitment. But what I read this morning is Porsche is planning to make a decision by the end of August whether they'll proceed with this. Right now, the initial investors that are looking at the IPO are saying that it's Porsche wants too much. Porsche is stating that they think it's worth about 80 billion euros, 80 to 90 billion euros, and the investors are saying more like 60. And what I'm reading is Porsche won't take anything less than 60. But as I was telling Manny yesterday, my take on this is it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the independence, and I think the Porsche Pick family really wants it to be independent again, and I think that will be more important than the last dollar and cent that they make off this.
And so what You were explaining to me the requirements to buy stock. It isn't like when you bought the SC, you could buy one share.
Yep.
You have to have a certain
so
income or
traditionally,
net worth.
So traditionally, IPOs go to the what they call friends and family first and foremost. So when this gets listed, the Porsche SE group is going to buy a majority of the stock. And then Volkswagen said to probably line up to buy quite a bit of it as well. And then there's a percentage of it that's going to go out on the market that'll go to the heavy hitters. So my little 62 shares at what's it now, about $7 a share, does not put me in the classification
you don't get that special email that invites you to.
You're not getting an allocation for Porsche stock.
Although I did have one source that I talked to when I was researching this story, said that sometimes in cases like this, they will offer shares to the people that have the other shares. I'm not going to take that to the bank, but who knows? But at this point, what'll probably happen is the Porsche SE value will drop because people that have bought into that want Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want Volkswagen. So they skip buying Volkswagen shares. They buy Porsche SE, and so they're going to skip right over that and go for the Porsche IPO when that actually starts to resell on the market. So people will buy that. They'll end up on the market, and that's probably where the investors will go. And then my little Porsche SE shares probably won't be worth that much.
But you're still an owner.
Still an owner. But I think it's critical to Porsche's future that they spin off. They also hope to use a lot of the money that's generated from the sale of these shares to put into the production of their electric cars. So they kind of need to fund their future. And if they can pull this off and they can fund that future without Volkswagen taking pieces of it, that could be a win for Porsche.
There you have it. So, folks, if you want to read more about what's it mean, the IPO and Porsche to the enthusiasts, we do have that full column there that's online. Check that out. And Jim,
I get called into these for the obscure. I'm like that guy in
you
dodgeball.
You are the
What was
obscure
dodgeball,
guy.
Manny, the obscure sports quarterly. Yeah, that's I'm the obscure Porsche content quarterly guy.
Bikes and IPOs.
So since we're talking about bikes, I'm going to throw this little bike thing because he totally got me this weekend. We went for a ride with our Porsche bikes, and he had like a top secret project that I didn't know about, but it still didn't completely work.
Yeah, well, so your best friend Gregory Brown wanted to upgrade his gears so that he could go faster and catch Vu. So we did that for the last week without Vu knowing, and then we all went for a ride on Sunday, and Gregory tried to beat you, but
still didn't
Gregory's
work.
been on the podcast.
He's on before.
Yeah, so he tried his best. I don't think he quite got you, but we had a good laugh trying to make that happen.
But I did notice, man, he's faster this time. Like, did he eat something special this morning? All right, we are in full swing getting ready for Works Reunion. I'm actually going to hop on a plane to go to the site and just make sure things are in order with Melanie and Tom Pravasi, our chair. We are going to be at the Monterey Pines Golf Course August 19th, and we are sold out for judge spaces. I
think corral.
I think we're just about sold out for corral.
There were 10 as of last night.
Yeah,
so probably when this airs,
it's probably going to be sold out.
You can still come.
And plenty of parking.
Plenty of parking, but
plenty of parking. Parking is $40, and you park on the green too. So it's a nice, very nice venue for spectators as well as for the competitors.
I did an article I think last week about why Monterey Car Week should be on your bucket list, and I was going through it. Jim, based on the book that Jim had gotten from was it the Chamber of Commerce or
something like that.
Yeah, they had listed all the Concord. I said, I always tell people about Monterey Car Week, or maybe I'll write an article about what it's about. And there's a lot of events I didn't list. Trying to do the stuff that I thought was interesting, but there's not much out there that's free.
Yeah, and we're bringing some heavy hitters in terms of cars. The classic Club Coupe is going to be there. We've got some special cars and some special people that are coming. So I'll just leave it at that. You definitely want to come out on Friday. We are also preparing for Sports Car Together Festival at Indianapolis. That's going to be September 2nd through 4th. Today, noon opens up by the time this launches. Registration will be open. You can do a lot of great things at the event together with PCA. You can sign up for parade laps. You can sign up for corral parking. And for those of you that have a GT car, you can do a high performance driver's education at Indy. And Porsche,
if you're solo.
Oh
you
yes,
sign up to
if
drive
you're
solo.
if you're an advanced solo driver, yes, that is a requirement. But Porsche is definitely going to make it very special for those that participate in that, and you'll see on the registration that you'll be in the driver's lounge with all the other race car drivers, and good food and good cappuccino and all that stuff that they have serving there, and it should be a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing you there. Let's see. First time. I think I'm announcing this year, but just as we're getting close to it, September 10th is the PCA open house here in Columbia, Maryland. So it is free. We will give you some. I think we're doing barbecue again. You can tour the office.
We couldn't convince Laura to get the chicken and waffle truck.
You know what? We might switch it up.
Oh,
if
barbecue.
Yeah, right. So we'll see. We might be able to switch it up. But we also give tours of the office. You'll get to check out our newly built podcast space here. You'll see the Porsche bike that we mounted on the wall last year. We've got Project 964 in the house.
You can see where Tech Tactics Live is filmed.
You can see where Tech Tactics Live. You can see all the trophies from the various decades of parade. It's free. You just need to let us know that you're coming. We get usually 250, 300 cars,
At
600
least.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, we it's quite the lineup of cars outside. Like, we have this cul-de-sac and this long street, and as far as you can look down the street, you'll see Porsches. And then we have our parking lot right in front that'll be filled with
11
Porsches.
Porsche bicycles last year.
Last year we had 11 Porsche. I don't think we'll break that record this year unless you put together some sort of ride. But look at that. We are at the top of the hour. Anything anyone else wants to share? Are we good?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Be sure to have your VIN handy. You can just go to pca.org and sign up. And if you don't have a Porsche, you can try our test drive program, and we'll help you find one. Jim looks at those personally and tries to make sure that you land a Porsche in your driveway. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos, videos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word, and you can message us or email us if you have suggestions, comments, and such at podcast@pca.org. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.